what's helped me in the past is to try and turn the information into a story. And then from there, it will allow me to not only dive a little bit more so I understand the concept, but by developing it into a story narration, it allows me in a sense to try and teach it back through the story to hopefully learn and ingrain the concepts, kind of anchor them in, I guess. So that's what I did, right? It took me about 3 hours. And so I'm going to read you a story. It is called The Bell, the Fog, and the Rock Named Viewer. In a land called Irian, older than maps, older than names, older than the first hand that ever rose to point at the sky, there lived a village that spent its entire existence facing a single mountain. From the moment that a child could stand on trembling legs, gentle hands would turn them by the shoulders toward the great gray mountain and murmur the oldest words that the village knew. Everything you are missing, little one, lives up there on the mountain. If you climb well, one day you will finally be whole. And so they climbed, all of them, every waking hour. Some climbed with their hands until the skin split and the calluses grew thick as bark. Some climbed with gold, stacking coin upon coin as though wealth itself were a staircase to heaven. And some, the ones who fancied themselves wise, climbed inward, sitting in candlelit silence, chanting, purifying, forever polishing their own souls, straining to become just a little more than what they woke as. And oh, it felt holy. It felt like the entire reason for drawing breath. But beneath all that sacred striving lay a secret that was so heavy that no villager dared speak it aloud. No one ever arrived. Every time a climber neared what surely had to be the summit, a new peak would rise, pale and cruel, through the clouds above. Always higher, always further, and so they climbed on, forever weary, forever, almost, forever one aching switchback short of enough. Our tale begins with a young woman named Mara, who climbed harder than anyone in living memory. She had made a quiet bargain with herself, the way that so many do. When I reach the top, she told herself, then I will rest. Then I will be allowed to love myself. Then the ache in my chest will finally go quiet. And so she drove her body up the slope, day upon day, chasing the single moment that she would at last be permitted to be at peace. Until one gray and windless afternoon, near the top, she simply stopped. Her legs folded beneath her, her lungs burned like struck flint, and a thought rose up, terrible and freeing, all at once. I cannot take one more step. And I have nothing left. I have failed the only thing I was ever told mattered. And in that exact moment of surrender, not surrender of life, only surrender of the climb, the wind turned. The clouds tore open like a curtain drawn back by an unseen hand. And Mara saw. There was no mountain. The ground beneath her palms was flat, perfectly, impossibly flat. What she had spent her whole life calling a peak was nothing but fog, thick, coiling, endless fog, rising in such a way that it made level earth appear to climb forever into the sky. Her first thought was denial. No, that cannot be. She dug her fingers into the cold earth. I felt the slope. My thighs still burned from it. If there was no mountain, then what, in the name of all the gods, have I been climbing all these years? And then a smaller, braver question rose beneath her panic. Did I ever once look down? And she knew, with a slow and dreadful wonder, she had not. Not once. In all of her years of climbing, her eyes had been fixed upward, always upward, toward the phantom peak. She had never turned to see the ground already beneath her own 2 feet. So she looked, and the ground was level, and it stretched, calm and whole and holy, in every direction that she dared to turn. But the effort was real, her mind protested one final time. The exhaustion was real. The years were real. And then came the knowing, the quiet and total knowing, like a bell rung once in a still and empty room. Yes, the effort was real. The sweat was real. The years were real. But the mountain was only ever the shape that my fear gave to flat ground. I did not climb a mountain. I climbed my own belief that I was below where I ought to be. And a belief, climbed hard enough, will make your legs ache just the same. And she let each piece click into the next, like beads sliding one by one into a string. If there was no summit, then there was never a higher place that I was missing. And if there was never a higher place, then I was never lower than it. If I was never lower, then I was already there. The whole time. Not almost there, not nearly there, there. She had not been below her best self. She was her best self. She always had been. She had simply never once been able to see it through the fog. Mara began to laugh. Then she began to weep. Then she did both at once, kneeling in the pale mist, not from grief, but from the sheer, staggering absurdity of it. A whole life, she thought, shaking her head. A whole life spent climbing a cloud and calling the ache of it holy. And out of that very cloud, a dry voice said, "Took you long enough. Most people..." From the swirling mist stepped an old wanderer, wrapped in a cloak that seemed stitched from scraps of every color at once, so that when he moved, he shimmered like oil upon water. In one weathered hand, he carried a lantern that held no flame, empty, hollow, dark, and in the crook of his other arm, tucked close and careful like a beloved cat, he carried a small, smooth, gray rock statue. And yet, Mara noticed with a start, the fog around the old man was thinner. Wherever he stood, she could see a little further into the world. How can that be? She wondered. An unlit lantern, cold, dark, empty, and yet the mist retreats from it. She turned the riddle over in her mind. A lantern is meant to give light. It is the whole purpose of the thing. But this one gives none, and still the darkness backs away from it. And there, a small door creaked open in her understanding. So either it is no ordinary lantern, or clearing the dark was never about adding light at all. She filed a half-formed thought away, not yet sure what it meant. "I am called Vale," the old man said. "I clear fog for a living. Dreadful pay." He hoisted the little rock a touch higher, so it could see her. "And this is Viewer, my oldest and dearest friend. Mind your manners in front of him. He remembers everything and forgives almost nothing." Mara blinked at the rock, and the rock being a rock said nothing, which is, after all, the one thing that rocks do better than anyone. "Now get up, child," Vale went on. "Your quest is not over. It has, in truth, only just begun. The mountain was the lie. Now we walk towards what is real." So Mara rose, but her thoughts turned against the very idea. If there is no mountain, then there is nowhere left to travel. My entire life I measured myself by distance, how far up I had come, how far I still had to go. And now you tell me that there's no distance at all. She frowned. Then what is a journey without a destination? What is a person without something to reach for? "But if there's no mountain," she asked, "where is there left for me to go?" "Not up, little one, but through. You have seen the truth, and I'll grant you, that is the hard part for most. But seeing is not the same as living, and learning to live inside a truth your whole village still denies, that's the strangest road that you'll ever walk." He lifted the dark lantern between the two of them. "This lantern holds no fire, because I do not add light to the world. I remove darkness. Do you grasp the difference?" And Mara, remembering her half-formed thought upon the mist, chased it now to its end. Add light or remove darkness. She turned it over. If a room is dark, I could carry in 100 candles, always adding, always more, always one more flame to light. And her breath caught. Or I could simply open the shutter that was blocking the sun that was already there. She looked at the empty lantern with new eyes. The light was never the thing that was missing. The light was always here. Something merely stood in front of it. Your whole life, Vale went on, watching the understanding move plainly across her face. You were taught to add skill, add worth, add gold, add holiness, until at last you might become enough. But you were born enough, so my work, and now yours, it's not addition, it's subtraction. We do not build the light, we clear away what stands in front of it. Then he did a curious thing. He crouched and set the little gray rock down upon a flat stone so that it faced Mara squarely. Now, you will teach it back to Viewer, for you do not truly own a thing until you can place it whole into another's hands. Mara frowned. Teach it? To a rock? Especially to a rock. Rocks never nod along to spare your feelings, and rocks never pretend. So go on, give it a try. So, Mara knelt, feeling more than a little foolish, and looked into the small blank face of the stone, and said, Viewer, here is what I have learned today. I do not need to add a single thing to myself to be whole. I need only clear away whatever is hiding the wholeness that is already here. Do you understand? And Viewer answered, and in that patient, waiting silence, Mara found that she had to make it simpler, so simple that even a stone could hold it in its small gray mind. Let me put it another way, my friend. Somewhere inside of you, right now, is a sentence that goes, I would be at peace this very moment if only I first finished this one thing. That one thing, whatever it is for you, Viewer, that's the fog. So tell me, what is the one thing that you keep telling yourself you must finish before you're finally allowed to rest? And Viewer answered, Yes, Mara whispered, and though the rock had said nothing at all, she nodded slowly as though it had just confessed the very secret of its life. That word, that task, and that someday, whatever just rose up in you, I want you to notice how certain that it felt. How true. That is exactly how the fog always feels. It never announces itself as a lie. It dresses as the most reasonable thing in the world. So don't fight it yet, my friend. Just learn its face, because precisely that is the fog that we've come together to clear. So they walked on. So they walked on, and the thinning mist drew them at last to a vast hall whose very... So they walked on. The very wall was polished glass. 1,000 mirrors, and in each one a different Mara stared back. But the reflections were wrong. In one of them, her face twisted, cruel and cold. In another, she was frail, trembling, and small. In another still, she saw someone utterly unlovable, someone no soul could ever choose. And as she stared, horror climbing her throat, the world outside the hall began to change to match. The trees beyond the doorway bent as if to menace her. The sky curdled gray and low, and a stranger upon the path curled his lip at her in open disgust. "Vale," she cried, the world is turning against me." "No," said Vale, calm as the still water. "The world is turning into you. Watch closely, for this is the first great law. The world outside is a mirror of the world within." But Mara shook her head, frightened and stubborn. "No, that stranger sneered at me. He decided that, all on his own. The trees, the sky, the world did that, not I." And she noticed, even as she thought it, how badly she wanted it to be true. How much easier it was to believe that the world had simply turned cruel of its own accord than to believe that she had somehow summoned it. And Vale said softly, "Which came first, child? Look again. Did the mirror twist after the stranger sneered? Or did the mirror twist and then the world outside agreed?" And Mara went very still, and she forced herself to walk back through it, moment by moment, as honest as she could bear to be. The mirror twisted first, she realized slowly. I saw the cruel face in the glass, and only then did the stranger curl his lip. Only then did the trees bend and the sky go gray. The inside changed, and the outside merely followed after it, like an echo answering a shout that was already spoken. And the dots began to connect, one to the next. So the world did not decide I was unlovable. I was already carrying that belief, hidden, buried, in a place where I could not see it. And the world simply handed it back to me, faithful as my own face in still water. And her breath shook, which means the trees are not my enemy, and the stranger is not my enemy, and they never were. They were messengers, and they are showing me precisely the thing that I have been holding inside all along, so that I might finally know it is even there. "So none of it's real?" she asked. "Oh, it's real," Vale chuckled. "It's simply not fixed. That cruel reflection is not a lie about you. It's a belief that you've been broadcasting, and the world, ever polite, hands it back so you might finally see what you carry. The mirror is not your enemy, Mara. It's the most honest friend that you will ever have, for it will never once let you hide from yourself. It will always show you, faithfully, exactly what is ready to be cleared next." And Mara understood the whole of it. Then I have been doing it backwards my entire life? I've spent my years trying to change the reflection, arguing with the stranger and fleeing the gray sky and wrestling the world with both hands until they bled. But you cannot fix a reflection by fighting the mirror. You could shatter every glass in this hall and change nothing at all. You must change the face. And Vale nudged the little rock forward with the toe of his boot. "Viewer looks lost. Set him straight." So Mara gathered the stone into her hands and held it up to the 1,000 mirrors. "Viewer, think right now, right? Of the one person who's been irritating you lately. That situation that you keep turning over and over in your mind. The one you cannot put down no matter how much you try. Now, don't ask what's wrong with them, but just ask instead, what is this reflecting back to me about something I secretly believe about myself? So tell me, friend, what has been needling you, and what do you suppose might it be trying to show you?" And the viewer answered. Mara was quiet for a moment, turning the stone gently in her palm as if truly weighing the answer that it had not spoken aloud. Yes, that. Whatever came to mind. Whoever's face just appeared behind your eyes. I want you to notice one thing. You did not summon them by accident. Of all the people in the world, that is the one that your mind reached for. And that is not a coincidence, my friend. It's a clue. They were never really the problem. They were only ever the mirror, holding up for you to finally see the exact... So they walked on, and holding up for you to finally see the exact thing inside that's ready to be cleared. So the Hall of Mirrors opened without warning into a vast moonlit sea. silver and breathing, stretching past the very edge of the world. And here, Mara made a confession, her voice bright with what she believed was hard-earned wisdom. Vale, I understand it all now. I do not need to climb, so instead, she lifted her chin, proud. I have decided to become my highest self, the wisest, the calmest, the most radiant version of me that could ever possibly exist. That is who I shall walk towards from this day on. And of course, Vale dropped onto the wet sand and laughed until he very neatly lost his grip on Viewer. Oh, that is the cleverest fog of all, for it dresses itself in holy robes. He gathered himself again, wiped one eye, and pointed at a crooked finger at the water. You see the ocean over there in the distance? Good. Now, choose your favorite wave. And Mara pointed to a tall, glittering swell that was rolling in towards the shore, crowned in a beautiful white moonlight. So, said Vale, you will chase that wave. And when it curls and it crashes and it vanishes, as every wave that has ever existed must, you will chase the next best one. And then the next, forever. Do you see it yet, child? And Mara watched her chosen wave rise and tower and dissolve into pale foam against the sand, just gone, as though it had never once been. And her mind began, again, to move, turning over what she had just watched happen. He asked me to choose my favorite wave, and I chose one, and it's already gone. She frowned at the empty water. So, my highest self is like that wave, a single perfect chosen shape. In the very instant that I reach it, I too will crash. And I will stand here on the shore exactly as I do now, scanning the water for the next one to chase. Her stomach turned over. That is the mountain again. That's the ladder wearing a crown of moonlight, but it's the ladder all the same. I have not escaped the climb. I have only given it a prettier name. Then Vale pressed one finger gently to the center of her chest. The highest self that you dream of is one wave you have decided is the good one. But you are not a wave at all. You are the ocean out of which every wave rises. And Mara went utterly still, and the vastest understanding of all opened inside of her, wide and dark and endless as the sea itself. I am not the wave. She looked out at 1,000 swells rising and falling all at once into the ocean. I have spent my whole life straining to be the one perfect wave, and every wave, every single one, dies. But the ocean does not die. The ocean does not chase itself across its own surface. It does not strive to become one particular wave, because it holds within it the power to become all of them, at once, forever. The final piece slid home. My highest self was never a single shining version of me. That was just one wave that I happened to fall in love with, but my true highest self is the ocean's own power. The boundless capacity to become anything at all. You can't chase that, right? You can't climb towards it because you already, know that you're it. But the wise ones have a name for it, Vale murmured, watching her arrive. Superposition. Every possibility existing all at once, none of them yet collapsed into a single answer. When you fix your eyes upon one perfect future self, you take the entire boundless ocean and you pour it into a single tiny cup. And then you spend your whole life chasing the cup. You abandon infinity and go and worship a puddle. Glance down at the rock in her hands. Viewers never once seen the sea. You should show them what it means. So Mara lifted the little stone and faced the silver water and spoke. Viewer, I want you to feel this with me right now. Don't try to become your ideal self. Don't reach for it. Don't picture it. Just feel. Instead, I am the one who could become anything. I do not have to pick a single version of me and chase it to the grave. Now, notice what happens, viewer, when inside your chest when you stop reaching, just for a breath. You finally set down the chasing of the one perfect you. What opens up in there? And the viewer answered. Yes, Mara said softly, gazing out at the endless, breathing water. Whatever loosened, whatever softened, whatever quiet bit of space just appeared where the reaching used to live. That. And notice, you didn't have to build that space. You didn't earn it or climb to it. It was just there the instant you stopped chasing. Holding up for you to finally see the exact thing inside that's ready to be cleared. So the Hall of Mirrors opened without warning into a vast moonlit sea, silver and breathing, stretching past the very edge of the world. And here, Mara made a confession, her voice bright with what she believed was hard-earned wisdom. Vale, I understand it all now. I do not need to climb, so instead, she lifted her chin, proud. I have decided to become my highest self, the wisest, the calmest, the most radiant version of me. Understanding, Mara was about to learn, is not the same thing as freedom. The Vale led her next towards the mouth of a deep and lightless cavern. The very moment the dark closed around her, her chest suddenly seized tight. Her jaw clenched off its own accord, her legs coiled, braced, ready to flee from nothing at all. She stopped dead, bewildered and ashamed of herself. Like, what is this? I understand the truth completely now. There's no mountain, there's no danger in this cave, there's nothing here in the dark. And she pressed a hand hard against her hammering chest. So why? Why does my body brace as though a wolf crouches waiting in the shadows? And then she asked herself the single question that cracked the whole thing open. My mind is calm. My mind knows beyond all doubt that there is no wolf. So if it's not my mind that's afraid, then what part of me is? Baal, she whispered. What is wrong with me? My mind knows the truth, and still my body fights. For the first time, the old man's voice went soft and unbearably kind. Because you learned the truth in your mind, child, but the lie was carved into your body long, long ago. Into the flesh, into the breath, into the very fibers that hold you upright. Laid a palm against the cavern wall, and beneath the cold stone, threads of pale light flickering to life, spreading like glowing roots into the dark. Mara gasped. Belief does not live in thoughts alone, Mara. It's stored in the tissue, in the gut, in the clench of the jaw, and the held breath, in the shoulders that would not come down from all the ears. Your body cannot tell the difference between the thought, I am not enough, and a wolf crouching in the shadows. The body, both are simply danger. So it braces, and year upon year, that bracing becomes your resting shape until you forget you were never built in any other way. And Mara, hand still pressed to her pounding chest, followed it through, slow and careful, in the dark. So there are two of me, she realized. There's the me that thinks, and the me that feels. My thinking self read the truth today up on the mountain and understood it whole in a single instant. But my feeling self, my body, it was never even in that room. No one ever went down and told it the mountain was gone. And she looked down at her braced, trembling legs, and something in her that had been hard for years went suddenly soft toward them. It is not betraying me. It is not broken. It is not weak. It is only a loyal thing still running from a wolf that stopped chasing me years and years ago. Because in all that time, no one ever once thought to go and tell it that the chase was finally over. Knowing the truth, said Vale, is a scroll that you have read, but the old fear is a song your body still hums, quietly beneath everything, without ever once asking your permission. And so there are two clearings, and you shall need them both. The clearing of the mind to see the truth, and the clearing of the body to release the bracing, so the flesh itself may cease its endless fleeing from a wolf that never was. You may know that you are safe, and still not feel safe, for knowing and feeling dwell in two entirely different rooms of the same house. And at last, Mara understood why understanding alone had never once been enough. Not for her, and not for anyone in the village below. This, she realized, is why the ones who awakened still suffered. They read the scroll and believed the work was done. They knew, and they thought knowing was the finish. But they never once went down and sang the new song to their bodies. And so their minds walked free across the flat and holy ground, while their bodies went on, blind and faithful, climbing a mountain that was no longer there. Baal pressed Viewer gently into her palm, and in the pressing dark, the little rock felt strangely, kindly warm. He is frightened of the cave, so help him. So Mara held the stone against her own tightened chest and breathed. Viewer, don't fight the fear. Don't argue with it. Don't try to think your way out of it. Just find the one place in you that's holding tight right now. Maybe it's the jaw. Maybe the shoulders. Maybe deep, deep in the belly. Wherever it is, just breathe into it with me right now. And on the way out, let it set down the heavy bag that it has carried, unasked and uncomplaining, for years. There. Tell me, friend, what did your body put down just then? And Viewer answered. Good, Mara whispered, into the dark, and the glowing roots pulsed warm around them both. Whatever it was, whatever loosened its grip, even a little, you don't need to name it, or understand it, or fix it. You only need to let it go. This is the part the clever ones always skip, my friend. So remember it. The mind reads the scroll, but the body must be sung an entirely new song. But they never once went down and sang the new song to their bodies. And so their minds walked free across the flat and holy ground, while their bodies went on, blind and faithful, climbing a mountain that was no longer there. Baal pressed Viewer gently into her palm, and in the pressing dark, the little rock felt strangely, kindly warm. He is frightened of the cave, so help him. So Mara held the stone against her own tightened chest and breathed. Viewer, don't fight the fear. Don't argue with it. Don't try to think your way out of it. Just find the one place in you that's holding tight right now. Maybe it's the jaw. Maybe the shoulders. Maybe deep, deep in the belly. Wherever it is, just breathe into it with me right now. And on the way out, let it set down the heavy bag that it has carried, unasked and uncomplaining, for years. There. Tell me, friend, what did your body put down just then? And Viewer answered, Good, Mara whispered, into the dark, and the glowing roots pulsed warm around them both. Whatever it was, whatever loosened its grip, even a little, you don't need to name it, or understand it, or fix it. You only need to let it go. This is the part the clever ones always skip, my friend. So remember it. The mind reads the scroll, but the body must be sung an entirely new song. They emerged from the cavern into open daylight, and oh, the sheer relief of the brightness after all that dark, to find a wide rushing river, and upon it, 2 ferrymen, twins, identical in every line and feature, doing the very same work in the very same way. And yet, one twin was drenched in sweat, gasping, straining against the current, aging before Mara's very eyes with each desperate stroke. The other floated the exact same route, effortless, laughing, arriving faster than his laboring brother, though he seemed scarcely to work at all. Mara frowned, and her mind snagged hard on the plain impossibility of it. The same river, the same oars, the same current pressing against them both with the very same strength. She looked from one to the other and back again. By every law I know, they ought to arrive together, equally spent. So what is different? She hunted for it. It cannot be the river, it's one river. It cannot be the boat, the boats are the same. It cannot even be the body, because they are twins, identical to the very last hair upon their heads. And there it was. If everything outside of them is the same, then the difference must be somewhere inside them, where I cannot yet see. How? She asked aloud. They do precisely the same thing. Look closer, said Vale. Not at their hands, at the reason beneath their hands. Mara leaned in over the water, and she heard the struggling twin muttering through gritted teeth with each stroke. I must do this to become worthy, to get there, to close the gap, to finally be enough. Each pull of the oar was a desperate proof, offered to no one that he deserved to be upon the water at all. And the floating twin, he was humming, and woven into his hum were the words, I already belong to this river. I row not to arrive. I row simply because it is my nature to flow. And there, Mara connected the final, most useful dot of all. They are doing the same action, the very same motion of the very same oars upon the very same water, and yet one is drowning in it while the other is carried by it. Her breath caught. So the suffering was never in the action. It was never in the rowing. The suffering was in the reason. One rose to earn his place in the water, and so every single stroke is a battle that he might still lose, a test he has not yet passed. The other rose because he already knows, in his bones, that he belongs. And so every stroke is not a battle at all, simply joy. It is overflow. And then came the thought that changed everything, the one that made her knees go weak with relief. Which means I do not have to abandon my life. I do not have to stop rowing. I do not have to flee to some silent cave and do nothing at all for the rest of my days. I need only change the reason beneath the doing. The same day, the same work, the same 2 hands, but rowed from I already am instead of I must become. This, Vale said quietly, is the whole distance between the 2 worlds. Distance and alignment. The same actions precisely, and yet 2 entirely opposite universes. From the outside, they are twins, indistinguishable. But from the inside, one is drowning to prove he deserves the water, and the other simply is the water. Vale set Viewer down upon the mossy riverbank, facing the 2 boats. He cannot tell the twins apart, so teach him the difference. So Mara knelt beside the little rock. Viewer, pick one thing that you have to do today. Any small task, any dull, ordinary chore. Now, first, feel it as this. I have to do this in order to become worthy. And sit in that for just a breath. Feel the weight of it. Now, feel the very same act instead as this. I already am worthy. This is simply me expressing what I already am. Same task, exactly. Not one thing about it changed except for the reason. And so tell me, my friend, where in your body did the weight shift between the one and the other? And the Viewer said, that's it. Mara said, smiling down at the stone. Whatever it lightened, the shoulders, the chest, the breath, you felt it, didn't you? It was so small you might have missed it, but it was real. And that, my friend, that tiny shift, is the whole of it. You needn't change your whole. At last, the fog thinned to little more than a silver haze, and they came upon a single mirror, standing alone in an open field beneath the sky scattered thick with stars, the clearest glass that Mara had ever beheld. Here, said Vale, is where the quest ends, but, here's the twist, child. His eyes glittered like the stars above them. Clearing the fog is not a place you arrive. It is a practice that you keep. every single day. And it is the exact opposite of the practice that you once knew. And he showed her the great reversal. The old practice was addition. Each morning you asked, what can I do today to get closer, to build more, to finally become enough? Pouring water endlessly into a cup that you were forever certain was empty. The new practice is subtraction. Now, each morning you shall ask, what fog has rolled in today, whispering that I am still far away, and can I let it clear? Draining that cup, drop by patient drop, until you see, at long and blessed last, that it was full the entire time. And Mara, standing before the clearest glass, felt every gate that she had passed through gather itself, all at once, into a single shape. The lantern that cleared the dark without a single flame, she thought. The mirrors that showed me my own inside. The ocean I had mistaken for a wave. The body still running from a wolf long vanished. The twin who drowned in the very same river that his brother rode with joy. And she saw the one bright thread running clean through all of them, like Vale's glowing roots beneath the stone. Every one of them was the same lesson, wearing a different mask. It was never, ever about adding. It was never about reaching or climbing or becoming more. It was always, always about clearing away the one thing that hid what was already wholly here. I will still wake each day with a ritual, she understood. That much does not change. But I will no longer ask, how do I climb today? But I will ask instead, what has tried to tell me that I am not already here? And can I simply let it go? Not to build, to reveal. Not to reach, to release. And not to become, but remember. Vale lifted Viewer one final time and placed the little gray rock into Mara's open hands. And he folded her fingers gently, one by one, around it. He is yours now, child, said the old man. Carry him. Teach him each and every morning, and you will never once forget. Ask him a single question, just one, and one alone. So Mara held the stone up before the mirror, up before the wheeling stars, and she asked, Viewer, tomorrow, before your feet ever touch the floor, before a single distraction can find you, ask yourself just this one thing. What is one belief here trying to tell me that I am not already whole? Name it, and then breathe it out. That's the whole of it. One question, one exhale, every single morning for the rest of your days. Can you do that for me, my friend? Will you? And Viewer answered. And Mara smiled, like a slow, knowing, tender smile, because she understood now that, standing there beneath the stars with the warm stone in her hands, that the little rock had never truly been the one that she was teaching at all. She turned to the clearest glass and looked at long and wholly last into it. And she understood everything. There had never been a mountain to climb. There had never been a summit to seize. There had never been a distant, perfect self waiting patiently at the end of some impossible and punishing road. There had only ever been fog, and a soul standing on flat, holy, sacred ground, quietly wiping the glass clean. And when the very last of the mist lifted from the mirror's face, the one gazing back at her was the one she had spent her entire life climbing to meet. She turned to thank the old man, but Vale was already walking away into the last of the fog, his empty lantern swinging softly at his side. That is the secret they never tell you, he called back without once turning around. You were never becoming someone, child. You were only ever clearing the fog off someone who stood there whole all along. Mara opened her mouth to ask one final question, but the old wanderer was gone. And there was only Mara, and the clearest glass, and the wheeling, patient stars above. And one small, smooth, gray rock resting warm in the palm of her hand, because the fog, you see, is never hers to climb. It's only ever hers to clear. And now, dear listener, whoever you are, and however the strange tale found its way to you today or tonight, the rock, it's in your hands. So, let's begin. What is the one thing you tell yourself that you must finish before you're finally allowed to rest? And the answer, my friend, only answer that has ever truly mattered, is... So, anyway, that's the story, and it was inspired by the video that I'm going to play now, and I would suggest following him. This video is awesome, content's awesome, and thank you. Thank you to the creator for the inspiration to spend a very enjoyable amount of time putting that story together so I could better understand his higher level language in the video that you're about to see. So, anyway, thank you.
This is for whoever it's for. If it lands on your For You page, if it starts making sense, it makes sense. If it doesn't, please swipe away because it's not for you. But you are not crazy. Please pay attention. You are at a point where you are recognizing, yes, you have reached your highest potential. You are aware of what's around you. You are understanding how the mirroring effect of your external reality is a mirror of your internal, but you're still thinking that you need to constantly reach for that potential. Every time you go to sleep, you realize the world around you, you wake up, you have a bunch of distractions, therefore you need to do things to get there. And that's the problem. You're thinking and reinforcing the idea of distance between you and this quote unquote ideal state. That is still a function of the old program. that idea, that context, you are not delusional for thinking what you're seeing and for finding out the rule. What you have to actually let go of is the idea that you have to do something for it to exist, for you to exist, for ideals to exist. You are already there, and I'm going to explain. Life leads through your own perception. So what I want you to understand in this transitional phase, because once you recognize it, you're not going to be able to look back. Not only are you not going to be able to look back, it's going to change the functionalities of how you do yourself in energetic cleansing, how you do your mental cleansing, what is emotional clearing and processing. The difference between the two worlds that you're about to jump into, one constantly gives you this climbing effect, which is essentially how capitalism feels, constantly getting to the next level. You get to the next promotion or the next title or the next job or the next achievement. And that's kind of what it feels like you're always fighting a current that is going against you. The world that you're about to jump into once you let go of that program is you are already there. And once you are already there, the waves of the old either still sit in your fascia, in your nervous system. Once you clear them out, what you're going to see is things that block you from what you already know. On the surface and externally, these things kind of look the same, but how you exist within those two are completely different. Those are the paradigm shifts. Quantumly, what you are doing is clearing the veil, allowing you to see all of the different things that target your already consistent state. You are already your highest self. There is no distance between that person and you. And the difference between the old paradigm and now is that your ideal, your most highest self, the way we talk about it, is also a program of the old. Because the highest self that you aspire to be is a version of the infinite possibilities. That is not your highest self. That is a craftsmanship of what the highest self can do. The highest self that you are, that you already are, always has been, is the infinite potential. And sitting in that infinite potential feels like seeing what reality already is and its potential. Is what people in quantum reality call superposition. You, in your expanded sense of self, in your expanded sense of awareness, is superposition and consciousness aware of itself within that superposition. Are you following? So with that being said, what you let go of is not you, it's not habits, it's not fighting to constantly stay clear. It's recognizing what in my system, in my belief system, in my subconscious is telling me I am not that. And then releasing its logic, trying to convince you that it has power over what is inherently always factually true in the basis of wholeness and oneness. You can't change what is infinitely consistent, period. So hopefully it fits for what you're going through right now, but I believe if this is landing on your For You page, it's for you to recognize the difference in those parallel realities. Because once you jump that threshold, you're not going to need to fight to get anywhere. You're just going to now need to put a routine in place to let go and to clear out what has been attempting to convince you otherwise. Then it's a different ballgame. Now it's what mirrors to me what I already know versus what is giving me the opportunity to become. Difference between distance and